Good evening, listeners. Recently, you may be aware that Francis Watch on Restoration Radio, or True Restoration Radio Network, whatever they call it, the thing run by Stephen Heine, has been made free through the generous sponsorship of Novus Ordo Watch. And I am pleased with this, but I was asked recently about Restoration Radio, True Restoration, and I'm just going to share with you my experience of it. Now, a lot of the content produced by True Restoration is very good, but I'm more concerned with the principles of how things have been. So firstly, the history of Restoration Radio. It started up as a business in the United States by Stephen Heine, who many of you may have already come across if you've been researching sedevacantism on the internet. And he, before he was a sedevacantist, like myself, was involved with the SSPX, and indeed Bishop Richard Williamson, Father Paul Morgan, Bishop Tisha de Malras, etc. And he used to produce books, basically like Letters of the Rector, for example, 4 volumes of Bishop Williamson's books from when he was seminary rector at St Thomas Aquinas Seminary in Winona, Minnesota, and I think possibly also when he went to Argentina. But as rector of seminary there, this is before he's kicked out the SSPX. This is a long time ago. But he also produced CDs and stuff. One of the things he produced was this: the collated sermons of Bishop Richard Williamson. You see there it says, let you get a better view of that. Hold it still, there you go. True Restoration Press, and I'll show you the back of it. It's basically a collection of sermons. Now, on this particular thing, unlike other things, there is no copyright mark on it. But you would have thought this might be a copyright thing. Now, I used to serve the Mass of Bishop Richard Williamson in Earlsfield, and I showed him it. I asked him who owned the copyright, and he said he did, and that I could make copies of it if I wanted to and stuff, because a lot of it there is good and that ought to be available to more souls. And so it's, essentially what he's done is it's put it together. I mean, you look at this is really early. If I just disassemble it, you've got, poor quality case, obviously it's already fallen out, but you see these are just CDs with sort of thing where you inkjet print onto CDs, audio CDs, and you've got a case there. If you look at the case, so I've got, take the insert out, look at that in detail. See, it's just a bit of paper which has been inkjet printed onto, and if we look at the top of that, I'm not sure if you can see it on camera or not, but it's not actually straight. It's been cut out by a pair of scissors, and we can see there, if I can get it up, you might see just there. It's actually got a bit wet, and that's the mark that's made when something's inkjet printed in production. But I think this went for about £17 odd or so, British pound. Mail order. I think it sold for £10 at St Joseph's each of them 2 CDs. Now, as I say, that's not actually copyright to anyone. So, these I spoke to Bishop Williamson, and a lot of them are actually years ago. For example, there's some on here. There's talk about the one entitled on disc 1, I think it is, New Mass versus the Old Mass, and it's about 5 different parts. Faith in Christ is the Old Mass versus the New Mass, and on the introduction, it refers to Bishop Williamson's Father Richard Williamson. So that was before 88. Yeah, and so it wasn't recorded by Stephen Heine. And there are many others on there, like a conference called 20 Years of Struggle, which is a conference given to during a priestly retreat at Cone many years ago. So yeah, Stephen Hunter doesn't own the copyright on this one, but he just got a whole load of things and sold them on for profit, personal gain. By the way, True Restoration is not a charity, nor a non-profit corporation. Now, Novus Ordo Watch is part of the not-for-profit charity. Not-for-profit corporation. It's a US corporation called Interregnum Foundation Inc. And it is a tax-exempt organisation. And if you're a US resident and you donate to them, then any profits, they don't make profits, not for profits, but anything you pay, you donate, they can reclaim the tax you earn on that money if you're a US resident. It's basically the equivalent of a UK charity. But anyway, yes, so just want to get that straight, that True Restoration is not a charity in the strictest sense, it's a profit-making company. Now, also, before he became sedevacantist and brought the sedevacantist view, Stephen Heine brought out these interviews he went round with, that's one's with Bishop Richard Williamson, and sold these DVDs. I think they're about £10-15 each. I'll read the title out to you. It's True Restoration Presents Bishop Richard Williamson, London, June 2009. Total run 2 hours, 39 minutes and 24 seconds. PAL DVD. And the other one, here we go, it's Father Paul Morgan. And I'll read that one out to you. True Restoration presents Father Paul Morgan, January 2010, London. Total run time 1 hour, 39 minutes and 32 seconds. DVD PAL. Okay, and then after that, Stephen Heine sort of went sedevacantist, and I don't blame him. I believe that is the correct position to take. But he continued to do the sort of stuff he does, and then he started this thing with sedevacantist clergy, and I don't. One thing I don't agree with is the way he presents things on. He passes it off as if it's some sort of apostolate, like charitable thing, when it's actually a profit-making company. Some people say, well, yeah, it can be both. But I actually disagree with that. I used to make rosaries, and I didn't make any profit out of it. I don't think you can make profit out of apostolate. I think, if you do it, sort of lessens the, sort of the prayer in it. That's why I never used to sell any rosaries I used to make. But I'm going to play you a bit from End of Francis Watch. This is episode 19, just to show you the way that I consider as ambiguity at the end.
As always, if you have any questions for His Excellency or Father, you can write to franciswatch@truerestoration.org, and we'll do our best to answer those questions in a future broadcast. All of us here at the Restoration Radio Network would ask that if you found this show to be informative, helpful, or in any way beneficial to you and to your faith, that you please consider sending a note of thanks to the clergy who help make our network worthwhile. Remember that above and beyond material contributions, the most important donation you can make to our work here is prayer. Please think of offering a Mass, a Rosary, or even a simple Ave for our work the next time that you pray.
I'm going to pause it there. You see that? He said, above and beyond material contributions, the next thing you can do is prayer. The next thing you can do is prayer. Now, material contributions, if it's a for-profit charity, and incorporated in the state of Kansas, USA, I think it's True Restoration Press Inc. But anyway, the point I'm making is, why would you ask for material contributions like donations if you're for-profit charity? If you're a for-profit company, it's like going to Tesco's and seeing a collection box that says, "Please give generously to Tesco Stores Limited." You wouldn't see that. Cancer research maybe. But also, he says about offering a mass rosary, even a simple Ave next time you pray. Now, in the 1917 Code of Canon Law, I forget exactly which canon it is, I will add it in of course, if contact me if I don't, I'll find out which one it is. But off the top of my head, I don't know. I haven't revised this, by the way. But yeah, I did look it up. There is actually canon in 1917 Code of Canon Law that says every mass stipend, every hint of commercialism is to be avoided, basically. And yeah, that's that bit there. I'm going to play the rest of it now.
For the restoration, I am Stephen Heiner. May God bless you.
Okay, well that one did include a thing about copyright, all rights reserved, etc. I don't think it did, but yeah, other ones do. But I mean, the typical words, they're found everywhere. Should we go see if I can find... I'll find one which is... I'm going to have to queue this one up.
The following program is brought to you free of charge by the sponsorship of Novus Ordo Watch. See for yourself.
Already both. I mean, that's a...
So that's the wrong one. Try to find something done by someone else from True Restoration. I mean, you got the... I think this might be...
Trips and all that sort of thing, but if they possibly can. Well, on that note, Father,
here we go. This is called Escape from the Novus Ordo with Father Michael Oswald.
Clergy who helped make our network worthwhile. So we're trying to kind of hit clergy who helped make us. If you found it, also take this moment to remind you that all correspondence with us are strictly confidential. All of us here at the Restoration Radio Network would ask that if you found this show to be informative, helpful, or in any way beneficial to you and your faith, that you please consider sending a note of thanks to the clergy who helped make our network worthwhile. Remember that above and beyond material contributions, the most important donation you can make to our work here is prayer. Please think of offering a Mass, a Rosary, or even simply an Ave for our work the next time you pray. For the Restoration, I am Jason Gordiano. May God bless you.
Did you hear that? Sounded very similar to what Stephen Heiner just said in Francis Watch. And by the way, that was episode number 6 of Escape from the Novus Ordo, done by Jason Gordiano, and the guest in that was Father Michael Oswald. Now, if you don't know Father Michael Oswald, he was a Novus Ordo priest who went for the Novus Ordo seminary, sort of came across tradition in the process, and then shortly after being supposedly ordained, or being invalidly a Novus Ordo priest, he came to tradition and he went to, I believe it was the CMRI seminary, and was ordained by Bishop Pivarunus unconditionally. But yeah, what I just played you at the end, it shows, you know, that this is a standard thing that Stephen Heiner is imposing to make it, you know, it's got this bit of corporate, but it's got this bit of, you know, charity thing. I think that's really not a good idea, but yeah, anyway, that's that. Now I'm going to go on about my experience with True Restoration. Now, I used to buy, fast forward to after 2013, I think it's actually about 2015, I bought, after buying a few episodes of Francis Watch for $4.99 each, I took out a subscription for £120 a year. And, you know, Francis Watch was a monthly show, so I should get 12 episodes of Francis Watch in that time. That's what it was advertised as anyway, and I only got 8, and I was very disappointed about that. And then, you know what, Stephen Knight said, well, you know, all this, you know, Father Shikada had cancer. I'm sorry, Stephen, that's not your problem. That's not my problem. Yes, I do appreciate he's got cancer, and, you know, I pray for him and stuff, but, you know, if you're doing it as a business, you can't use that excuse. And also, I mean, I have had it said, you know, in start of season 5, that, you know, comparing it to Netflix, you know, subscription on Netflix lessons, and saying how much better it is. Well, Netflix is a commercial thing. If you're going to take the things to the modern world like that, then you better deliver. You know, that's the sort of thing. Right, so if I can find it, I think it's the flagship show actually. Yeah, season 5 preview. I'm queued up here, so I have to try and find it.
Reader and post against them. I was asked to host my own show.
You're not allowed to pick any shows of your stuff.
Show next season.
Okay. That's all I really have to say about that.
Cool.
We've got to go with Matthew, or just
the Novus Ordo friend that says...
Someone might say, what's a sacrament? I mean, sponsors for those shows, so they'll be free to the general public. If you're interested in being a sponsor, you can write to mail that sense of community. And the last thing I want to wrap up with, and I don't want to hit this too hard because we obviously just talked about membership, but all of you subscribed to Restoration Radio before you ended up being sucked in.
We might get it here, actually.
Become much more of a variety and much more something that anyone would be mad not to take advantage of, and to ensure that it continues, because we can't take our clergy for granted, and if they aren't in some way made able to get their wealth of learning and experience, but mostly their learning, out to the people by this way, it will cripple the spread of the faith and the restoration of the church during this crisis.
And we've had this crisis.
Yeah, you see that? Well, get your message out. Not charge them a lot of money to find it. Put it on YouTube. You know, I kind of feel the clergy are being a bit exploited here, but yeah, this is going a different thing. I'm just trying to find it. I literally haven't rehearsed this at all. I haven't got anything queued up. But I'm just talking about my experience. There's all kinds of things. I mean, they said in this here somewhere, this is episode 49 of the flagship show, by the way, and season 5 preview it's called, and they said in here something about comparing with Netflix and, you know, or I think Matt Gasson said something about comparing it to a few bucks more than a cup of coffee or something at Starbucks. That's a modern thing. You know, I don't like the way it just mixes all this modernism. It's all, you know, but yeah, that's that. Let's try to think. I've got anything else I can show you, but yeah, I had a bit of a falling out with Stephen Heiner at the end of and my year was up. I only got I considered actually under English law there's a breach of contract, because, you know, the understanding was that I'd be getting 12 episodes of Francis Watch. It's a monthly show. I got a year subscription, 12-month subscription, therefore I should get 12 episodes of Francis Watch. But then Stephen Heiner said, no, we never promised you that. Blah, blah, blah. Well, I'm sorry, but in English law, if you go to a bakery and you buy a loaf of bread and you find a nail in it, then under English law, that loaf of bread would be found not to conform with contract. There was nothing to say that, you know, that the bread would not include a nail in it, but the general understanding when you entered in that contract was that the bread would be fit for human consumption, and by that nail in it, that iron nail, it is not fit for human consumption, and therefore the bread did not conform to contract. Now, I could have pursued Stephen Heiner through the courts for this, but, you know, with the international nature of true restoration, it would be very, very difficult. I mean, the value of it, well, if how you calculate the value, I'd say probably anywhere between £40 and £80. Dollars, 40 and 80 US dollars, which, you know, is a pittance, kind of, compared to what I got and what I paid for. I mean, I paid $120 for my subscription, and then you've got issues of jurisdiction about whether it's United States, whether it's United Kingdom jurisdiction, or whether, Stephen Heiner now lives in Paris in France, or is it the French, you know. So it was, I decided not to pursue it in the end, but anyway, I just wanted to share you my experience of true restoration. To be frank, I think what should happen is, yes, making this content, you know, Stephen Heiner's got to live, everyone else needs to live, but what should happen is, I think True Restoration Press Inc. should be converted into a not-for-profit charity or company, or become part of Novus Ordo Watch, and they should be employed, and there should be a system whereby you become a member, you get a vote in the running of True Restoration, and you're able to vote at AGMs, you're able to stand on committee. There should be a form of democracy in this. I mean, when there is no authority, you know, when the paper says vacant, the see is vacant, I think some form of democracy of this type, where those who pay money by subscription become members, actually get a proper democratic say, which is binding. That's how I think it should be run. But anyway, instead of the Contest UK, which I run as not for profit, you know, I pay for the web hosting myself. It's basically my way of supporting the church. I'm bound to do so. That's one of the perspectives of the church. But when the see is vacant, I need to find some way. So my way is you know, paying for the web hosting instead of Accounts UK, and of course setting up work, doing the work on it that needs to be done, and making this very video is actually part of it. But yeah, I don't wish any ill will to Stephen Heine. Now, I did actually play a few bits from shows by Restoration Radio which asked copyright. Now, under fair use, I can quote them, and this is under fair use. I do claim fair use for this, you know, by the way. So, no copyright breach intended, it's all fair use, okay? And, sorry if this has been a bit of a rant, but someone just asked me what my experience of true restoration is, so I just wanted to make this video so I can say it. Okay, God bless.